Hey, hey, Tim.
Hello, Craig. How are you?
Super unbelievable. Just
Good deal.
getting going here. All right, let's see. See the way. Oh, Charles is here. Okay, there we go. Kevin and Gary. There we go. All right. I think we're ready to go. Okay. Well, this who I think Gary's is our next, and then I don't know who's next, but Gary, did you had a dream, didn't you? Or
Yeah, I'll actually go with a more recent one. This should probably be pretty fast because there isn't much there. So there's a large bus that I've acquired the engine to, like a big Greyhound bus, and I have a small VW microbus,
yeah.
and I plan on putting the motor from the large Greyhound bus into the VW microbus.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a child that I'm to pick up, maybe my daughter, but not my daughter in real life. And so I have the motor on a workbench, and it's actually quite small. It's no larger than the motor it will replace. But it's much more powerful because it's for a Greyhound bus. It might be electric as it's a cube. So I'm testing the motor on a workbench when something happens and I go to inspect the problem. There's a shaft that comes out that's connected to a pulley, and the shaft is bent. And I panic, thinking that now I will not be able to pick up the child. That's it.
Okay. Hi, Mohammed and Sandy and Kevin. I mean, Kevin, I saw. Oh, wait,
Hi.
McKenna. Hi, Sandy.
Happy birthday, Gary.
Yeah, happy birthday, Gary.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Thank you. Oh, and if it helps, I've actually owned 3 Volkswagen microbuses. I've owned the pickup, the camper, and then the one for carrying people.
Okay, so let me just review it here. We're going to take the motor from a very large Greyhound bus and put it into a microbus because there was a child that you needed to pick up.
Well, I think the child is something else. That's kind of that's something I need to do. But
you need to do this too. You need to do this as well. And so you're testing the motor.
Right.
And the shaft is bent, and now you don't think you'll be able to pick up the child. Now, I think I missed something because I was a little. Was there anything else in that?
Well, the motor is actually the same exact size as the motor it's going to replace.
Oh, motor is same size as the one it's going to be replaced.
And the
same horsepower or same.
No, same. It's like
same
a
dimensions.
cube comes out and the cube goes in. Same dimensions.
Yes. Okay.
And there's a shaft that comes out.
But it's more powerful because it came from a Greyhound, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Quite a bit more powerful.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, let's just start out with this again. I'm just going to kind of review it, and then everybody chime in. But tell it like a fairy tale. Okay. There is a very small bus which we're going to put in a very powerful engine from a larger bus. So that we're going to make the smaller. We're going to make a dynamo out of a very small method of getting around. See, now the car, normally is like the cart used to be, like the horse used to be. It's sort of a symbol of the. By the way, hi Ivan. I didn't. I just saw you come. But it is a symbol of a way of getting around. You know, way of getting around. You know, a way that the ego. It's the way of the ego. It's the way the ego goes through life. And you know, often you can control it, and often you can't control it. You know, sometimes you know what I think it's a symbol of is sometimes who's in charge here. You know, the vehicle or you, and you're the vehicle. You know, but and you're riding along in the vehicle. I mean, we are the vehicle. Okay, we're riding along in the vehicle, but who's driving this thing? You know, so when it's a bus, you know, it is it's a conveyance for a you know, many, you know, and so in a very small conveyance of many, we're going to put the engine of convey a very large conveyance of many. Okay, and now there is a child you need to pick up. Okay, now this is very interesting because you know, this is something I've been talking with somebody about today, is the idea of the tension, the ego self axis. Okay, this is why it's so important. Dreams are so important and symbols are so important, because the ego can't produce what needs to be produced, and neither can the self or the unconscious. But together, that tension of the ego self axis, they can produce a child, you know, which is the redeeming thing. So this child, which this promise of youth, is often either the reconciling or the redeeming thing. So the reconciling or the redeeming thing are at stake here in getting this smaller conveyance, which we still don't know why we need it, why we are doing this, other than that I'm not exactly sure. I mean, there is a secret here. Let me say that there is a secret here that I haven't stumbled on yet. Okay, it's a wonderful secret, but we don't know what it is yet. But anyway, the shaft is broken. Now the shaft is the thing the motor turns. Okay.
Right, and it's bent. So the shaft comes out, there's a pulley at the end, but in the testing, the shaft has become bent.
Yes. Okay, and so now, even if, let's say, even if we get the motor from the very large conveyance of many into the very small conveyance of many, what it drives is ruined.
Right.
So you know, so what it turns is ruin. So we're not going to be able to accommodate the redeeming thing, or you know, that we're going to be failing somehow in being of service to the child. Okay, let's say that. All right, now, all right, I'm lost, but okay, but I know that this is a very important dream. I do. So why don't we start with Tim and go through all our wonderful dream interpreters, because you're all good.
I find myself thinking about the bent shaft.
Yes.
I think about the four elements of the personality
Mm-hmm.
as being weights on a wheel. And so so I'm an introvert, and so I've got this big heavy weight on the introverted side.
Mm-hmm.
And so unless I can compensate for that weight on the other side, then I'm going to spin out of balance.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, the process of individuation is trying to figure out how to move these weights a little bit so that we can operate.
Have a rhythm.
Yeah, without like a unbalanced washing machine just falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the image I think of with a bent shaft. It has to be straightened out so that it spins effectively.
Without wobbling.
Yeah,
It needs to spin in a true fashion. You know, it needs to
yes, it needs to be.
spin without wobbling. Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Charles? You're always good at this.
I have some really obscure input
Oh, they can't. Nothing's too obscure. I'll
the
tell you.
on the cube nature of the engine. Um, so you did mention that you thought it was maybe an electric engine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so
It's almost like a battery.
right,
Like a
right.
battery.
This is why I think it is a hydroelectric engine, because so a cube,
Mhm.
if you take it and view it in 2D form, it's a hexagon.
Mhm.
And the basically the layer of water that creates the surface tension in a body of water,
Yeah.
all of the water molecules are connected in a hexagonal fashion, and that all what you would call it snowflakes are hexagons.
Mhm.
So water is actually molecularly hexagonal. It doesn't actually like in nature really exist in like a H2O form. It actually almost is always in a form of more than one molecule where it forms hexagons. And a hexagon, yeah, it's just a 2D cube.
It's hexagon would be a six-sided, correct? Or
Correct. Yeah, because
Like
the cube,
two triangles.
because the cube is six-sided too.
Yeah.
And like literally, if you view a cube from a certain angle, it will form a hexagon.
Mhm.
And I got really into Kabbalah. That's where I learned
Yeah.
this. And yeah, if you unfold a cube, it'll form a cross, like a Christian cross too. But I mean, you can form different shapes with it. But that is my kind of input on it being actually like a hydroelectric engine and somehow actually having to do with water too. It's a water engine in a really obscure way to me. Also, I feel like the minibus, like if you were, the minibus is almost like a little fractal of the big Greyhound.
Mhm.
And if you were to see the bus, the two vehicles as egos, it's like, well, do you want to have this gigantic ego that takes up the whole road, or do you want something that's really like just enough, something that's like
Yeah,
that'll do,
that's the secret that I'm it's going to take me a day or two, Gary. I think on this one to figure it out. But the point I think that is really good there, Charles, is that what Tim says. What needs to spin needs to be true, and it's not true. It's wobbled, and the engine is can also, I think. I work for a company that repairs electric motors, and they always get mad if you refer to it incorrectly as an engine or any, it's an so the cubed thing might be an energy plant, an energy, a source of energy rather than being a motor. It is just the energy driving mechanism of a smaller conveyance. So from a very large, say from a macro, the world conveyance, we're putting it into the micro conveyance, and it's bringing the qualities of the great world into the microcosm, but it possesses the same driving force. Okay, so we're taking the energy of the macrocosm and we're putting it into the microcosm of ourselves. Now this is really the definition of the self, okay? We're born with a self. The self that we're born with and the one that is our center that we're connecting with is our personal self. There is also a universal self, you know, which is outside of us, you know. So the personal self is the one we're born with. It is unique to us because it's organized based on our psychological function, our superior function, whether we're male or female, you know, and a lot of other idiosyncratic qualities. So, Sandy? Now you always stumble onto wonders. So why don't you get at it?
I don't know. I don't know anything about engines at all. But what's been said so far is really interesting. I didn't hear the whole dream. So what really struck me in my notes here that I took was he went from the bus, which to me is a collective mode of transportation,
Yes.
to the individual. And that was pretty big to me, and personal. And he's going to put his energy into the personal and sort of work that out and pick up the child, which is the golden child, which is the
Yes.
secret, the
Yes.
secret to his unique personality. That's just what I thought.
Mm.
Well, it is that this is we're getting into it now. Mohammed, you had one of the most wonderful dreams last week, but why don't you, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. Most of what I'm hearing is new for me, so I don't know
Oh.
if I can contribute to this.
Okay, well, that's good. Well, we're all learning. So
Yeah.
I would say that the one thing that is different about interpreting in this fashion, you know, is well, you know what they always say in alchemy, and I think this applies to how Jung interpreted dreams, is he said to objectify the personal. So whatever we do that is personal, make it impersonal, make it objective, okay? And whatever is objective and is not us, personify it. So you objectify the personal and you personify the objective. Now, you can say, I don't like that way of interpretation, but it's what the alchemists did, and it's sort of Jung's way, although Jung is so magical about it. I mean, it's beyond. Okay, Ivan, how about you? Kevin, you're always last. I don't know why. I'm just going by the thing I got here. Okay, go ahead, Ivan.
I didn't have any deep thoughts on it other than the minibus is a sort of awkward mode of travel, especially with this engine, right? And so you have this bent axle, you have this vehicle that's meant to carry many people, but not terribly comfortably, you know, a minibus. And it's got this strange engine to it. It struck me as a weird mode of travel.
Yes, that is. There is an object of no matter what we do, it's not a car. It's something. There's an aspect to it that we need to, you know, find out yet. That is not typical. There is some secret in the bus aspect. The fact that it is a bus. Okay. All right. Well, okay, Kevin, you're up.
Yeah, sure. I don't know if I have something to add to this one, but what I would think of it is perhaps assessing one's core, like the engine is the core of something, and yeah, I go from collective to personal, but it hasn't really changed it yet. It's still during an assessment. So I don't know if that would add to something, but that's very personal. You know, one's core. You know, that's the heart of the vehicle. If that,
Yeah. What do you think, Gary? What do you?
Well, I just, you know, it appears to me that it's like there's there's this huge element of risk because, apparently, I mean, the most important thing is picking up the child.
Yes.
And then, you're doing this really strange motor swap. And then the thing that would drive the car is damaged.
Mhm. Yes.
So, it's, I would certainly say it's not a complimentary dream. I would say it's like a warning to me. I just haven't figured out what it's warning.
Well, yeah, I'm going to take one more stab at it. Okay. There is, you are taking the personal and you're putting the energy plant of the objective into the personal, so you're, to some extent, that's personality number 2. You're putting personality number 2 into the personal, or trying to, okay? That's all fine and good. And you're going to go then, after you have put the personality number 2, by the way, is our greater personality. This is when you have achieved what's called the second conjunctio. Okay, that is when the ego is still very powerful, yet it has united with the soul and the spirit and the body. So the soul and the spirit and the body are all one, and they are all in orbit around the self, and that oneness are being informed by the heart. So they both are listening to what the heart says, which is what nature says, okay? So the organizing archetype of wholeness, and are you now united ego? Are you ego that's now back united with our body and our nature, is now, along with the organizing archetype of wholeness, is in sync and is being informed by the heart, which is nature. Okay. So anyway, that's personality number 2. Now you're walking around and you're walking in the lumen natura all the time. And Marie-Louise Van says it's a person who's in their active imagination all the time, which means they're communicating and having a dialogue with the self all the time, or the inner figures, while they're in time. That's, by the way, exercise 6 in ally work. Okay. But anyway, you so you're taking you're putting personality number 2 into your own vehicle. Okay. Well, that's all fine, and then you're going to go pick up. Okay, now we can go get the redeeming thing, the golden child. But there's still something wrong. And what's wrong is what it's driving, what personality number 2 is driving, has a bent shaft. So putting personality number 2 in there is not going to allow us yet to get the redeeming child until we figure out what the shaft is and why it's bent.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think about that?
Wow.
That's
I'm
a
just
good one,
dropping
Craig.
my jaw.
How do you repair a bent shaft?
You would almost, to repair a bent shaft is almost impossible. I mean, does anybody know? I mean, you would put it on a lathe. It depends on how much it's bent and how much you can make it unbent on a lathe, but.
And it also depends on how literal you're being.
Yeah.
Because it seems to me that straightening out a bent shaft is a really simple cognitive process.
Mm-hmm.
It's bent this way, and so it needs to be bent back this way.
That's a good analogy, vertical or horizontal or something like.
But I think technically it's a really difficult process because of the because it needs to spin at such high RPMs that it has to be really true.
Yes.
So to fix it, you'd have to put a new one in, or what?
You could put a new one in, or you can. I like Tim. Let me just try to encapsulate what you just. I think you just said, Tim. What just struck me? Okay, you know, most coincidence of opposites are a quaternio, which is a cross. You know, and your orientation, Gary, is not the right axis or something. You know, there's an there, you're using the axis that's not related to the task at hand. And I'm thinking that the task at hand is operating in the outer world. Okay. That's what I'm thinking. So there's one axis that has to do with orienting in the inner world. There is another axis that has to do with orienting in the outer world, which is the moral obligation, okay, is to manifest these things in the outer world. This is something I'm learning also in active imagination. If we do an active imagination and we don't take it into the outer world and make it manifest, it's vaporous. You know, you need to do something to make that real in the outer world. So I would say that I like Tim's idea that it's a conceptual bentness. You know, that the bentness has to do, now this is just a stab in the dark. It has to do, you're bent in the orienting in the inner world, and you need to bend to orient in the outer world. And I think what that's saying is what Hermes says in the Emerald Tablets. Its strength is perfected when it returns to the earth. You know, it doesn't help us to be spiritual beings. We need to be beings who are grounded and who have 2 feet on the ground, at least while we're alive, okay? While we're in this world, if we are not walking on the ground with our feet, we're not fulfilling our rhizome, our rooted, the unflowering of the rhizome.
And
okay.
also the motor is spinning on the inside, and the power is transferred to the wheels, which are on the outside. And so it's kind of a repetition of what you just said, Craig, that that you're taking the energy from the inner world and moving it out.
Oh yeah, good point.
I also asked, sorry. Like I was also thinking if the engine is sort of a symbol of the self. So as we talk about the symbol of the ego self axis, and if the engine is still on the bus before transferring it, then that would also perhaps suggest that the self is still projected onto the outside world, such as government and so on. And now the projection is taken back from the collective and is now going to essentially try to integrate the self into the ego self axis. But it's the middle part which is is outside, sort of. It's not, for me, I don't know, but it's neither outside in the collective, but it's also neither inside in the subject. So it's something in between. I don't know, something like that, because the integration has not fully taken place if this is the ego self axis, but it's something in between. And I don't know, perhaps Hermes can do something, because in between is sort of
and I think the collective can be either you know, the mass man, or it can also be, you know, what I was thinking it more is the macrocosm, you know, which is the which is more like the self, you know. Now but I take your point, Kevin, because I think I could be off on that. Now, Charles, I'm still fascinated by your water tension analogy.
Oh,
I love water tension. Water tension is one of my favorite things.
Yeah, it's the layer of water that is in this hexagonal structure. It's called an exclusionary zone. And yeah, it's a bunch of
Bugs
hexagons.
can walk on it.
Right, right.
Bugs
Yeah.
will walk on it.
And if it was just a jumbled mess of water molecules with no like structure to it, like that wouldn't be possible. They can move on it because of this literally layer of hexagons that creates like this kind of like little wall, and it's an electromagnetic phenomena. And I also wanted to comment. I have no idea how much my weird Kabbalah electromagnetic references help at all, but so the idea of the cube and the hexagon, well, on I believe it's the North Pole of Saturn, there's an unbelievably, unconceivably large hexagonal structure that is actually made out of counter-rotating rings. It's a bunch of layers that spin in opposite directions, and overall it just makes this giant hexagon. And that's because of the electromagnetic pole at the top and all the current running through it. So it makes me think of like that this engine is like it's like taking that grand energy of the universe and like bringing it down to personal form so that you can go get the child. But
it's a magical engine. I mean, the
fact
that it's shaped in a
divine
cube,
holy.
The fact that it's shaped in a cube is almost like it is the thing that drives the the Star Trek vehicles or something, some kind of a it's almost like it's almost like it's almost like it is it's a magical it's driven by a wholeness. Okay, what's a cube? It's four sides, and it's got six faces, but it's four, on all sides. So we take the four from the greater world, and we put the four from the greater world into the lesser world, which is us, magical.
It's like wholeness in 3D space.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's very beautiful.
And can I also just add to that? I was also thinking, I don't know if you have seen the movie Transformers. They have the cube, which the movie Transformers, where they have the cube, which I think that symbolizes spirit. Everyone that touches the cube turns into animate objects, and so I feel like also that's also at least a symbol we have put onto the collective consciousness, which is now sort of projected into the movies.
Well, I'm thinking also, and I don't know, is it the Kaaba or what's the cube in Mecca?
Right. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm not remember exactly what it's called.
But they also turn around it. Like
yes.
They walk around it, and
it's in it's in somewhat of a circle. It's just a beautiful how anyone ever came up with the image of the Kaaba with the circle around it. It's just absolutely ravishing, beautiful.
I wanted to also add sorry, I'm like a huge electromagnetic nerd.
I love your Saturn. I'm already going to Wikipedia that baby.
It's incredible, but like the way electric currents work, they dance around each other. The feminine and the masculine, the positive and the negative, they dance around each other, and it's known that an electric discharge that creates like a little scar can often create a hexagonal pattern. So this idea of the cube, it speaks to just pure energy, because I'm under the pretext that like the energy of the universe is electric in nature. It's the most pure form of energy that exists, and it's universal.
And nobody knows what it is.
Right. It's the most mysterious. And
it's an energy, yet it can't be defined. You know, it can be observed.
Well, the best anyone has come up with is the dynamic polarization of the ether. And that's what the definition of electricity is.
Okay, well, how about anybody else? Sandy, Ivan, or Mohammed, or any comments? And well, then maybe Sandy, you can give us a fabulous dream, like your one-petaled flower or one-sided petals on the flower. Okay, Ivan or Mohammed or anybody? But I mean, Gary, this
Okay.
is a beautiful dream, a beautiful birthday dream.
Yeah, thanks for that dream, Gary. That was really interesting. Did you come away thinking anything different about it, or?
I mean, wow. I mean, with the input from this group, I'm like, first I look at like, what is this, But now I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a significant dream, So thank you very much.
You go into these things. I mean, I found almost every session we've done is these dreams are beautiful. Every one of them. I mean, I haven't had one dream yet that I don't think about later. And you know why I think about them is because they came from the same creator that creates my dreams, and it's just any genuine material from the inner world has wafts of magic coming off it, like dry ice, I mean, and it's palpable,
I feel that too, that
Yeah.
they speak to me throughout the week, other people's dreams or images. And I had a simple one last night.
Okay, groove.
That was weird. I was either by a tree or in a tree, and a huge snake came and swallowed me kind of halfway, then turned around and I cut somehow through the snake all the way through through his mouth, got out, and then cooked the snake and ate it. And then at the end of the dream, I'm thinking, well, is the head left? And if there's, I don't know, I guess there was some bones or something. If there's bones in snakes, I don't know. There wasn't my dream snake. And I thought, I want to honor the snake and use every part. But I woke up, so I just did an act of imagination where I, excuse me, ate the head and then took the rest of everything and ground it into a powder and just put it in a drink.
Yes, this is a wonderful dream. Anytime we dream about the snake, you have to wake up and take notice, because that is a powerful image in all of us. So you're by a tree or you're in a tree. Okay. Now, I don't want to get too obvious here, but it sounds like it's the tree of knowledge, or the tree of knowing yourself, and the tree Newman. Now, the snake in the Eden tree is not the devil, according to Jung. It's the tree Newman. This is the tree of knowing. And its voice is a snake. Now, the snake is the prima materia it's the primal, it's the source, it's the beginning of consciousness. Okay, it is where consciousness begins, and then differentiates out of it. So it's almost like the master animal, and so in the Kundalini serpent, starts coiled up at the base. Anyway, let's just not get too deep into the snake imagery. But anyway, it is an elemental force of life. Let's put it that way. It's an elemental force of animal existence. Okay, it is, but it also is the voice of the tree, apparently. Now, I'm not saying that's true, but I'm just trying to equate it. It's somehow related to the tree, okay, which you're either in or seated by. Okay, then it swallows you halfway. So it swallows obviously the lower part of you. So it's right.
No, the upper part. I
Oh,
was
swallowing
inside,
the upper part of you. Okay.
my
Well, that's a
inside
different
cut
story.
myself out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's swallowing the upper half of you. Okay. So you are going on the night sea journey. This is Jonah going into the whale. It's also is the 3 days in the underworld that are often mentioned. Jesus was supposed to have spent 3 days in the underworld. I mean, it's just it is you spend time in the underworld. Why do you spend time in the underworld? Because you learn what is to be learned there. And then when you come out, you are never the same as you were before you went in. Okay. So you're now, you have actually experienced a ritual of transformation. Now, this ritual of transformation is very deep. Okay. You're near the rooted things. Okay. The elemental forces of life swallow your upper half. Okay. And then you are yet the ego does not dissolve. The ego comes out of it. Okay. But then it feels that it must assimilate this elemental force of life while it's back in out of the snake now. Somehow I am been tasked, I have the duty of assimilating this because I experienced this ritual of transformation, when I visited the tree. Now the tree could also be like Yggdrasil, the tree whose roots reach where no man knows. It's always it reaches up in exactly the way it reaches down. I mean, its branches resemble its roots. So it's where as above, so below. I mean, it's the idea of that there is this connection between the outer world and the inner world that is analogous. And you're there. That's where you are. You're at the center. So you're at the tree is the center. And there the snake appears to perform a ritual of transformation on you. To either assimilate you and digest you, or you assimilate it and digest it. Okay? But either way, it's a ritual of transformation. And so after you have the ego has emerged from there, hopefully somewhat altered from the way it went in before, and now it knows it must assimilate the this being of transformation. Okay, Charles, why don't you start? I'm just going up by clockwise. Maybe you guys got a different view than me, but
I didn't really have any thoughts. I feel like you explained it really well. I feel like my just initial reaction was like it's like a dream about receiving the mysteries and just kind of like the like dream of hidden knowledge and taking in hidden knowledge and gnosis. That's kind of just the feeling I got from it.
I think all Sandys, in fact, I think you all are very talented dreamers, but I don't think Sandy has told me a dream that was not a big dream. I mean, they're beautiful dreams. Gary, what do you think?
Well, we're seeing some, you know, some real alchemical things in here, and where things are going through stages, and then they're brought to the next stage, you know, where first, you know, the snake is from the underworld, and so, you know, and that's where we have to go to transform. So the snake comes up for the transformation, and initially the snake swallows her, and she is effectively a part of the underworld, you know, while inside the snake. And then she emerges from the underworld and absorbs the snake. So that's kind of like absorbing the understanding of that, you know. So again, yet another alchemical transformation.
Of extreme power, by the way. And
oh my
extreme,
gosh, yeah.
yeah. I mean, I'm just saying that is a very if it's something that needs to be manifested in the outer world, because this is a part of relentless memory. This needs to be interconnected with everything else we do in our spiritual life, this dream.
And then the other part of this is that she is next to the tree, and the tree, you know, goes both to the below and the above.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, it almost acts as a reinforcement for the other part of it. And of course, it takes us back to, you know, the original tree of knowledge, and the, you know, the snake, which brings the ability to discriminate, you know, to be able to tell the difference, to divide. So yeah, wow, that's all I can say.
Yeah, I mean, it's do you have you had many dreams about snakes, Sandy?
No.
No. Right. Well, that's why another thing that seems like this is very powerful. How about you, Kevin?
Yeah, I was more interested in what reaction she had. Like, what reaction did you have in your dreams, and what feelings came up? You know, we mentioned it is a big dream. Did you feel it was a big dream? And you know, why you're letting yourself being swallowed by the snake, or why you're resisting and all of this?
She wanted to know what my reaction to the dream was?
Yes, and
Well,
your reaction inside the dream while you were dreaming it. Yes, your thoughts on it.
the reaction to the dream was really, I thought it was reflective of the work I'd been doing previously. And, you know, Craig, you've talked about slow cooking and beholding the image and relentless memory. And those things have been a big part of my work lately. And what's happened in my dreams and in my active imaginations is when I had a dream before this where I was rooted deeply in the earth. I was above the earth, but there were big roots going down into the earth, and there was a force pulling me, and that was kind of scaring me, because it looked like, I mean, it was like at any moment my roots would break. And then for some reason the earth pulled me down to the earth, and an outer shell shattered, and then a new being came up out of the middle of that. And so working with that dream, of course, first I wanted to do the light body one, but then I ended up going back to the shattered part, and I just went into that beholding the image, and it just took me through my whole life. And it was really like what I felt, the shattered part in my life that I had felt all my life. And then beholding that image took me back to times in my life that I needed to just be present there. I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly. So it was that whole process of all those days of work that really felt like that snake dream was saying that there was some transformative thing happening in the process of slow cooking, beholding the image, relentless memory, and then being guided back to, and in this case, the memories were like real memories where I just was present with them. And the most amazing thing about just beholding those memories and just being present and say how I felt and what was really going on is that they felt transformative. It felt that it
Can I
was
just ask?
transformative just doing that.
Can I
Does that
just
make
ask?
sense?
Yeah.
Yes. Can I just ask the last question regarding the tree? Like, did you have any feelings in the dream towards the tree? What feelings did you have of the tree in your dream?
Did I have feelings about the tree,
Yes.
Kevin?
Did you? What kind of? Yes. What kind of emotions? Like, yeah. Did you have any connection to the tree in the dream, and what feelings came up if there was any?
That's a really good question. I felt like the tree, it felt natural. It felt like I belonged there. I don't know if it was possibly representative of the tree of my life, or it felt, the whole thing felt natural. I mean, it was odd because I wasn't scared. And the only part was at the end when I realized I didn't eat the whole thing, I just felt like I wanted to be responsible to the death of the snake. I did feel bad that the snake died, but then I realized that that's a part of life, and then, you know, just consumed the rest of it. But the tree, maybe the tree was related to the tree of my life. I don't
Well,
know.
yeah, the tree is definitely a numinous figure. It is a very powerful representation, I would say, of the self. You know, I can't imagine it not being related to the center. You know, so it has something to do with it. It is really is the vegetative self. You know, and then this snake comes along. By the way, hi Lena. Thanks for stopping in. We're just in the middle of Sandy's dream, but how about Mohammed, Tim, or Ivan? Do you have any comments, Mohammed?
Can I ask Kevin a question, though, if he had
Yeah.
any thoughts about the tree? I mean, did you have any thoughts related to?
Yes. I mean, yeah. I mean, the trees. I can't say specifically in your dream. It's just the tree is such a vast symbol. You know, it can mean a union of opposites, and you know, it was somewhat of a union between you and the snake, I think, and the digestion of it. But yes, I was very. I asked the questions because the tree is also a symbol of the immortal life, you know, the self, and being in touch with this tree is essentially also being in touch with the infinite infinite awareness that sort of does not die. And so in touch with it is a feeling of eternity. You know, it's a feeling that you will never die, basically. And it is a feeling. You can, it's not a made up thing. If you feel, you know, if you feel this feeling, it will never take you, you know, you will never lose.
Yeah. Mohammed, do you have any
So that's why
either tree or snake dreams? Have you
Yeah,
had any tree or snake dreams?
I was thinking about the way the snake ate her and the way she liberates herself. So the snake ate her from the head down, and she liberated herself going up. And those two directions make me think of the two approaches of the spiritual disciplines. So there is some disciplines which us to go down, to go to the body, like yoga, and there is other disciplines that encourages us to go up to the head to get to enlightenment. So I was thinking
Yes.
about this.
Well, it is very interesting that the snake swallows. Lena, let me kind of summarize the dream. Sandy is standing by either standing by or in a tree. A snake swallows her from the head halfway. Which is probably some type of a transformation ritual. The snake having to do something with the self, because the tree is going to be the symbol of the self. And so this is a transformation ritual at the holy altar of the self, which is the tree. And the tree Newman, or the voice of the tree, in a ritual of transformation, swallows Sandy from the head, half of her body. She is then it represents a return or a journey to the land of the dead, or the land of the underworld, where we all have to go if we are while we're alive, if we are to be transformed into having our center of awareness being closer to the middle plane, between the invisible and the outer world. And so when she comes out, she knows that she must assimilate this primal force of life, which was the vehicle of the transformation. Okay, so that was the dream. Mohammed, have you ever had any tree or snake dreams? Do you remember?
Not recently, maybe when I was a child, but I don't
Yeah.
remember any of them.
Yeah, I don't remember. I have a lot of tree dreams, but I don't remember too many snake dreams. What about you, Tim?
I was married for a while, and my wife had a whole bunch of snake dreams, and I kept encouraging her to turn around and face the snake and say, "Eat me."
Mm-hmm.
And it feels to me like, Sandy, you have done all your homework, and this is all, you've done everything you were supposed to do. You turned around and faced the snake. You asked it to eat you, and it did. You cut your way out. You assimilated it. And now I think all your homework is done. You can go home. You don't have to do this anymore.
Well, they say the gates of paradise never open. You can never go beyond the center. So you can't go beyond the tree. You just be closer to it next time. How about you, Ivan? You got any thoughts?
It's a really beautiful dream. There's a lot of duality to the dream, I think. Specifically this idea that you can't consume knowledge without it consuming you. And also,
yes.
As Mohammed was saying, this upward and downward pull of things, where you're in this tree, you're up, the snake is pulling you down. Out of curiosity, this is a weird question, but how did you kill or consume the snake in the dream? Was that part of it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I guess I had a knife with me, because I cut it from up, I went up, cut the snake open.
Yes, you mentioned
like a straight line all the way through the snake's mouth.
And then entered out. Yeah.
And then cooked it.
Cooked it is very important, okay?
Yeah.
What that means is cooking means, in alchemy, when they mention cooking, it means to incubate and to lend our awareness to it, to something, to add the heat of awareness, of our ego awareness, lending our awareness to it. So that's what cooking is supposed to mean, that we lend our, we meditate upon it, and after we've meditated upon it, now we can assimilate it and digest it. Before, it was somewhat undigestible,
Yeah.
Now, Lena, did you want to talk a little bit? And what do you think about this dream, or do you have dreams about snakes? Or, I just want to mention, no man would have a dream this beautiful. Let me just put that it has something to do with the world of eros that we're sort of separated from. But go ahead. What do you think, Lena? Can you unmute yourself, or let me look. Unmute yourself. Yeah, there. Okay. Can you speak now?
Yeah. I actually I'm new to dreams, and
Yes.
I don't really remember my dreams. If I do remember them, they evaporate within seconds or minutes, so I don't recall them later in the day. So I'm trying to um, get into trying to talk about dreams, and trying to get myself in the habit of remembering my dreams. But I remember having a dream and snake, a tree and snake dream a few years ago. I happen to walk in parks all the time, so I see snakes and trees. So maybe that's why the dream came up. But I don't really know how to link that into any mythology.
Well, I think they're very healing. Ivan told us one good method of remembering your dreams is to do or to make them more vivid, is to do a meditation before you go to sleep. And I think that's very, very powerful. I ask, the dream maker to give me, to help me remember the dream. I try to, I say a little, just sort of a prayer. This is what Edward Edger says. A prayer is a request from the unconscious for an image with which we can have a dialogue. Well, I say a little prayer to send me an image with which I can have a dialogue. So I like both of those things, but this is a problem we all have too. I think is not all of us. I mean, I think we have some very extraordinary people. Charles here is amazing, and with his richness of his dream life. But anyway, how about? Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
Another technique that I've heard about is drinking half a glass of water when you go to sleep, and then drinking the other half when you wake up, and telling yourself, okay, when I drink this other half, I'm going to remember what I dreamed.
Yeah, and I've had the and by the way, Sandy, what I wanted to include in No Man Would Have Those Dreams was your dream about your root. I'm linking this dream with the one with where you are rooted in the ground. I mean, I think you're correct that these dreams are linked. But do you see, when I was hearing this, I was hearing the richness of the feminine psyche is what I was hearing. That's something I am, I don't have access to, but it's just sounds beautifully rich, because it's to do with the earth, and the wisdom of the smell of the earth. One thing, Tim, about the water. I had my person I do the active imaginations with tell me, or Jeffrey Raff has said that too. It's the source of all images. Water is the symbol. It's always, when I do active imaginations, one thing I've had several times is, what Barbara Hanna calls the sudden deepening. I mean, you're doing this active imagination, and it's very difficult because, we don't have the organ of perception yet for the imaginal world. So a lot of it we're kind of forcing, but every once in a while there's a sudden drop. And one of them that has occurred several times is just a vessel with water being poured into it. just a beautifully clear water that's going into a clear vessel.
I wanted to just a couple things from someone that has literally more dreams written down than I know what to do with. One thing, the main thing that I do is I keep my dream notebook right by my bed, so the second I wake up and have any memory of a dream whatsoever, I write it down instantly. And I usually find myself, I start writing down one dream and then instantly remember, like, dang, I had 5 or 6 more. I got to write those down too. And I have to write them down really fast. But I was curious if I could share a quick dream because it is very short.
Yes.
And I have no clue what is going on with this dream. And there is an image that I drew associated with it.
Yes.
It's
beautiful.
It's puzzling to say the least. So I'm just in a bedroom with my father, and he's a lot taller than me. So I assume that he's, so that I'm a child or young. And we're both looking into this closet that's open, and this is what we see. Hold on, I can't see my screen, so I can't.
Yeah, now if you do a gallery speaker view,
so
you'll
these
be able to
are,
see it better.
Like, that's the shelf that's in the closet, and these are like the doors of the closet. And there's this little stand with an animal on it, and a stand that's taller than it behind it with another little animal on it. They're like, it's like the size of a house cat, like these two little animals. And we're looking at this closet, and we're like, okay, we have to turn around now and turn our backs towards it, plug our ears, close our eyes, and like I'm just waiting, and then all of a sudden, like a concussive blow, like a shock wave, hits me, and I feel like I almost get knocked unconscious, like I just received a concussion, and I'm like, it was terrible, and I feel like I'm losing consciousness, and I think to myself, if this happens again, I'm gonna get knocked out, and if it's a repetitive thing, this is going to kill me. And then that's the end of the dream. And yeah, we're just looking into this closet, and this is what we see.
Well, it is
it's very strange.
Yes, it is. Now, this is a fairly recent dream, or?
Yeah, I had this just yesterday when napping.
Well, I love it when it's fresh material. Well, anyway, there's, let's just go over it. Again, one thing I do is just try to state it like a fairy tale rather than a dream a little bit, just objectifying the personal, you know. Okay, you're in your bedroom. Is that where you were?
Just a bedroom, like a nondescript bedroom. I don't even remember there being any furniture or anything.
You're in a bedroom with the father, not necessarily your. So you're in the bedroom with a paternal aspect of yourself, and you are a child. You were a child. So I mean, you are at the beginning of your development. Okay, now, and you're with the paternal aspect. Okay, you're looking into a closet, and what you see are, now I'm just gonna guess at this, that you're seeing stored in a storage area, in the place where dreams are you have dreams. In other words, this is the area in the house which is reserved for introversion. Okay, so it's reserved for going into the depths, and in the storage area of that room is a display of instincts. Now, when the animals are near, the instincts are near, and the instincts are the redeeming thing. You know, I mean, they're the symbol. They are the more primitive forms of the archetypes. You know, and they are they're the heart. They're the various differentiation of nature in its informing wisdom. Okay, and it is they live out their rhizome. So the advantages that the animals have and the instincts have over our broken ego, which doesn't live out its rhizome, doesn't live out its root. A rhizome is a root. See, a root is supposed to grow into something, that it was the seed dictated, okay? But for some reason, man doesn't do that. So that's why he's ill and sick, because he doesn't become what his root needs to become. And he doesn't become because of his willfulness, the fact that he's thwarting the natural development of his rootedness. Okay. So anyway, in the rooms where introversion occurs, we open up the place where things are stored. Instincts are stored there as well. So when we go in, when we go into the room of introversion, where our dreams are, we access our dreams, it's piled up with instincts. It's piled up with instinctual material, and it's in the storage areas, waiting to be used. And then suddenly, now there is the concussive blow. The concussive blow is an auditory blow, isn't it? I mean, it's what causes a concussive blow? It's either a vacuum or high pressure of something.
The way I described it was like a shock wave. It was like
Yes,
an
it's a
explosive
wave.
shock wave.
It's a shock wave, and if you've ever been in a shock wave, it's jarring. I mean, it's very jarring. But what it tends to be is a pulse of energy that came from somewhere, suddenly flows through the room. You're in the place where the dreams are accessed, and you see the instincts are stored there. The animal nature aspects of ourselves are also stored there, and suddenly there's this concussive wave. Does anybody have any idea what the concussive wave is about? What? Gary, do you want to start?
Yeah, well, because there were two of the animals, that doubling indicates, that it's a very powerful image. There's an urgency to it, and the concussive blow. I mean, again, a huge urgency. Something on the verge, and what followed? What followed the concussive blow?
It was just me thinking, like, holy crap, if this happens again, I'm going to get knocked clean out. And if this is a repetitive thing that goes on, then it's going to kill me. And then those were my thoughts, and then the dream just ended.
So, it's telling you to be aware of something. I wish we knew what it was.
Well, it's a powerful blow that occurs after you go into this almost sacred temenos of accessing dreams, and you see that the instincts are there ready to be accessed, or the instinctual world, or the world of nature, the world of where things are where animals and the dream are in sync with the Tao. Let's just put it that way, that they are in balance and in harmony. Okay, the dream and the animals, and you're in the room where you access this harmony, and suddenly when we view it with your paternal aspect, there is a concussive blow. So this is something almost like a judgment of us that we are not that we're endangering. Now I'm really going off rails here. Okay.
Well, I think so. I think it's important that the concussive blow happens when you turn your back. It also seems that these animal figures are mirroring your figures in the dream of the paternal and perhaps your ego.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. It is really interesting that, yeah, we were viewing these, and then it was kind of like, I don't want to say rehearsed, but it was like, okay, now we turn our backs and we cover our ears and we close our eyes and wait for something, and then bang, it happens.
Mm-hmm.
It was like it was like intentional, yeah, turning our backs on it.
Well,
Knew
isn't
something
it
was gonna happen.
maybe something when you're covering your ears and plugging your ears and covering your eyes before the concussive blow? So you're almost
Right.
Isn't that kind of strange? And
Yeah,
then
it's like I know it's coming, but
yes, you intuit that it's coming. So it is a image that once you receive this, it's supposed to be a shock to the conscious attitude. You know, it is supposed to wake the conscious attitude up and get it to relent and surrender. You know, and how do you wake it up? A concussive blow is a very good way to do it. Were you going to say something, Tim? Oh.
I'm just thinking about turning your back at that moment, as if you can't take that force directly. It has to come in through a maybe the inferior function or through another part of your body that is not your face and your ears.
It's funny that I would call that that the plugging the ears should be Act 4, but it's actually Act 3, and Act 4 should be Act 3, and I mean they're kind of out of order. The concussive blow comes after the preparing for the concussive blow unconsciously. Sandy, Kevin, Muhammad, or Lena, do you have anything?
Yeah, I had some. I had something. I was thinking of. Do you? I would. Yeah, it would be nice to know. Do you know what caused the blow? Was it from the animals, or was it where did the blow come from?
it was just some mysterious something that came from behind me. It wasn't like
Okay.
I physically got hit on the head with a baseball bat or anything. It was like something about it seemed, it was like something supernatural, paranormal that just blasted me.
Almost wake you up. Wake you up.
I agree with that.
Being too sleepy.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of strange though that it almost like knocked me unconscious.
Yeah.
So I think maybe
might say that's what you need. You need to be banged around or something. Go ahead.
Can I also ask what kind of animal was it? What do you think is more, a feminine or a masculine animal?
It was like this really, from what I remember, like this really ambiguous, nondescript, just animal.
Looks like felines.
It could have been a cat. It could have been a dog. Could have been a raccoon. I don't know.
They have a cat-like look.
Just my last question. In terms of the cabinet, did you feel what feelings did you have towards the cabinet? If you had any?
It was kind of like, I don't know. And this, it's interesting because, you know, I was there like kind of as a youth, as like a child, and like I was kind of like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to look at this. Like my dad is like here, like telling me, you know, I need to look at this. Like I'm being a good son by like listening to him. Like this is what we do. And that was kind of, that was kind of my feeling about it. It's like I wasn't really interested in it, but I was kind of doing it because like my dad was there, and I think that's what I was instructed.
Yeah, one thing I'm thinking about the father is he kind of represents king ego. So you're walking into the room with king ego, and you're seeing that let me go to a little bit here. The instinctual informing wisdom is laying there asleep, latent, and that's because you need a concussive blow before they'll wake up in you, because they are latent in you. I mean, no, I'm not going to say you personally. Late in us, okay. The instinctual aspect of ourself is sleeping within us, and we go into that room and we see it with King Ego, the king, who represents the conscious attitude. Okay, that's what the father does, and we go in there, we see lying there almost useless, this very precious thing to the healing aspect of the dream, lying there, and it seems almost like, and then we plug our ears and cover our eyes as if we don't want to see the instincts. Okay, now what do you think about that, Charles? I think I'm getting that wrong. Why were you plugging your ears and covering your eyes?
It was just the whole kind of feeling of the dream is like, this is what I'm supposed to do. Like I'm almost like following instructions, and like my personal feelings on it is like, it's like, and this is reflective of my personal life. Like it's just too much spirit, and
Yes.
like I grew up Catholic, and just this kind of like idea of like a male reverend figure telling me to live this unrealistically spiritual life, to where like everything's just really like the soil of the earth is like impure, and it just I don't know. I guess that's the best I would
I think this is
describe
a
it.
wonderful, this is a dream of grounding. It is a dream of saying that the instinctual life within us lies inert, and we go view it with the conscious attitude, and it's telling us that the only way that's going to wake up is some type of a shock, an outer shock, and sometimes that means that something has to surrender in us, or we have to surrender, or sometimes the only time things happen like that is through a shock, a near-death experience or something like that. That is the only thing that's going to wake us up to the fact that these healing aspects of our grounded existence on earth are asleep in us. How about you, Mohammed? Do you have any more comments? And again, what would you think if you had this dream, and let's say you were in this situation? What would be your reactions to it?
So I was really fascinated by the fact that he was like protected by his father
Yes.
figure. Like he was given instruction, and he was just following instruction, and that made
Yes.
him go through it alive. And what my reactions would be if I was on the same situation,
Mm-hmm.
I think I would be so afraid after the shockwave happened.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
like
and somewhat disoriented, I think.
exactly. I like the when you use the term near-death experience.
Yes.
Like it's a wake-up call, and you have to be really in danger so that you can realize something about it.
That's the only way you wake up what's sleeping, you know, in the unconscious, you know, is through lending our awareness to it, and the only way we lend our awareness to it is to stop being so willful. So I mean, that's actually like it, it's experiencing death while we're alive, so we can the unconscious contents can come to light, because our light is so harsh, our ego light is so harsh. You know, anybody else have any comments on this? And
You know,
and it's a very good dream. I like it a lot.
The one thing I'd throw in is that, you know, if you're getting ready to respond to, you know, a blast, you know, everything is physical. There is no mental. It is all at a very instinctual level, even like closing off the ear, you know, communication and intellect is no longer important at this point. You know, it's all just physical. So, you know, it does sound like, yeah, this is a dream of grounding and your response needs to be physical, you know.
It's almost like a lightning strike. Well, we don't have much time left. Why don't next time we'll start out with Ivan, Kevin, Tim, Mohammed, or Lena with their dreams. And
I am curious
Lena,
if Sandy had any quick input.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Sandy.
Her dreams indicate that she's very wise. So.
Yes, she does. Let's hear it, Sandy.
First of all, I want to thank you all. I think your amplifications are just amazing, and I really, really appreciate them. What struck me, Charles, was that you yourself said there's too much spirit. I need more instinctual. And then Craig said it's a dream of grounding. And then Gary said too that he felt the same, and that with that shock wave, it's like your body has to respond. I thought it was interesting that you covered your eyes, you covered your ears, like not see, not hear, but your body, a visceral experience, instinctual. But you yourself said it, which I thought was really interesting. Too much spirit and need more instinctual. That it's the visceral experience. And I also think it's very close to the surface, because there's two. You know, when, at least in my understanding of dreams, that whenever there's anything of two in a dream, it's doubling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a doubling. It's really wanting to get our attention. Lena, do you have any comments? And maybe if you can bring a dream next time, we'll get you, Ivan, Kevin, Mohammed, and Tim.
What did you think, Charles?
Oh, yeah,
Charles. I thought your guys' input was great. Yeah, it seems like it's indicating like that a physical response is required. And there's something like big, like coming at me. A lot of energy is coming at me. And if I don't face it, you know, if I do not face it, I had better be prepared to like get the crap knocked out of me, apparently. Because it's more energy than I can handle, apparently, without facing it.
I think one thing you need to, I'm not saying you, but at least myself, the way I corrected this is through a relationship in your active imaginations with the feminine, you know, particularly with the Great Mother, you know, I mean, or some figure who represents the four in the feminine, and to be speaking with this person all the time, you know, because they're going to give you the perspective. Eventually, it starts out with you just saying what you think they say, but if you work with that long enough, and plus your anima, I mean, I think the Great Mother and the anima are a good way to ground yourself, you know, in active imagination, to come closer to the earth, you know, At least I don't know if I think I've come a little bit closer, not completely. Well, anyway,
Also add some,
yeah, go ahead. Anybody else?
that was just very quickly regarding the child stream. I think it's very important, like especially when it comes like almost like a supernatural thing, and it's very big thing happening. It's often more often not so much personal as much it is archetypal. Something in the art, something deep below has been activated, and the question becomes, can you handle this or can you not handle this? And handling the archetypal forces alone usually can be very difficult, especially if it's archetypal shadow as the devil himself or something. And so, like Craig says, like have something next to you, whether in active imagination, that rather than just one becomes against one, because archetypal forces is always stronger than the ego. But make yourself 2 or 3, whether personal wise or with other, and slowly like handle the energies. Otherwise, it will your dream says, the license of your dream, it says that it will overwhelm you, and so it's already telling you that.
Did you say anything on this, Gary, or not? Maybe you did.
Oh, no. I mean, I just want to hear what it is when it finally happens. I mean,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, okay. Well, we'll, unless, does anybody have any closing comments? We'll just meet next Friday then. Is that okay?
Okay, thanks everybody.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll see you all next
See
time.
everyone.
Thanks for coming, Lena and Tim and Mohammed,
Yeah.
Charles, Kevin, Ivan.
See you next time.
Bye, guys. See
Gary.
ya.
Bye-bye.